It's Teresa here, and I am delighted to have here with me on Facebook Live both a client, a colleague, and a friend, Angie Stone. Now, what you're going to experience in this interview is Angie is a powerhouse. I mean, she is one dynamic, passionate, visionary woman. And yet, a year ago or so, she wasn't quite feeling that way. And so I invited her, and she agreed to share her story of this past year, because my intention is that if you can relate at all to Angie's story, that her story gives you hope, that it inspires you, that it opens you up to possibilities, so that if right now, maybe you're struggling around money, maybe you're living in fear around money, maybe you're feeling like, how am I going to pay the bills around money, or whatever, that somehow from this you can know it doesn't have to be that way. So Angie, thank you for being here. Thank you for your generosity and your courage in sharing this story. Not everybody likes to say, yeah, a year ago, things were not so good. So why don't you give us a little brief, a little bit about you, so they know why you're such a powerhouse. And then tell us a little bit about what was going on in your life about a year ago.
Okay. So Teresa, first and foremost, thank you for wanting me to share my experience. I mean, it just seems crazy to me what's gone on the last year. And if I can help someone else not feel what I was feeling, or be able to feel better about things, I'm thrilled to share. So thank you for giving this opportunity to once again use my voice. And you know, this is becoming a theme for me in my life. And,
yes,
so when you asked me to share a little bit about what I do, is what I've learned that this is becoming. It's absolutely giving a voice to our elders who live in care communities, and also giving a voice to what I've deemed as their care champions. And the care champions are the people who are supporting their loved ones as they walk through the journey of living in a care community. And this is a huge picture, right? But it started on a really narrow tangent with dental health. And that's really the crux of it all, is giving these people in these care communities dental health, giving them a smile for their entire lifetime, and saving them any agony of their mouth in their later years, because nobody should have to, my tagline is, nobody should die from dirty teeth.
Yeah.
And it happens.
And you've experienced how that can happen. So yeah, powerhouse. I'm so excited to see where it's all going, especially as you start to claim your voice and speak up for yourself and for the elders and the care champions. So a year ago, you were quite speaking up so much. You were choking, I think would be a right word. So tell us what was going on in your life and in your biz about a year or so ago.
Yeah, so that's a great question. I didn't even recognize that. I mean, it wasn't something that I really thought a lot about. I mean, I just figured that, financially things are the way they were, and I'm just kind of hanging out what I felt by myself, and just trying to manage all of this stuff, right? And it's it was interesting because it's not like we were behind on our bills or anything. I was paying the bills, right?
Yes.
But it kept being, there was more and more to pay, right? Because I was trying to fulfill everybody's needs and wants, and not really even paying attention to if there was money, right?
Yeah.
It's I'm just going to make it happen, and credit cards are really cool. Not really. But at the time, it's yeah, you're oh yeah, we can do that, right? We can do that. We can put on the credit card. Oh, you want this for Christmas? Oh, sure, put it on the credit card. And so I just was oh my gosh, I wasn't sharing this with anybody, right? I mean, my husband knew that I was using the credit cards, and so it wasn't like he was in the dark. But as you and I figured out, there was a disconnect between the two of us, right?
Yes.
Probably one of the biggest things I learned from you is why I was all kinds of stressed out, and he's like, oh, whatever, right? And so that's kind of what
you had credit card debt that was going up. You were working your butt off, trying to take care of it, handle it, make the money in your relatively new business. Massive pressure, massive stress. And then what happened?
Well, I'm kind of just like, muttering through this, and I was invited to a polka dot meeting. What the heck is a polka dot? That's what I thought, right? I'm like, oh my Lord, one more meeting for me to go to, right? Like I have time for that.
Right. Because I've got to work harder and faster because I got to make money and I got bills to pay, right?
Right. So how can I take 2 hours out of my day once a month to hang out with a bunch of ladies? Like, you've got to be nuts.
And ladies who call themselves polka dots.
Polka dots. But one of my oral care specialists in my business, Teresa had gone to the Wausau chapter's polka dot meeting, and she's like, oh my gosh, Angie, you have to go. You have to go. And I had put it off and put it off. But you know what? I ended up going to the exact meeting that I needed. And that's when you were speaking, and I did not know you. I didn't know the freaking polka dots. And I like drudged my feet there. I'm like, seriously? Okay, Teresa, Cheka, I'll do this, right? And you happened to be speaking, and I was like, oh, I want her. I need her, right? Because you spoke directly. I mean, I'm like sitting there, I'm like, I don't know if she's talking to anybody else, but I know she's talking to me. Yeah. And so you were like this beacon, like this bright light in all of these things that were going on, but that I was just kind of trying to push down and push down and push down and didn't want to deal with, right? So it was a magical day.
Cool. And then you came to a workshop that I gave in a month or so, and your husband came with. And then you said you wanted to have a strategy call with me, which we did. And I remember right before we scheduled that, I think you were just about to file for a consolidation loan or something like that. You were like, I just got to do this to deal with this.
Right. We were going to take out a second mortgage.
That's what it was. And you haven't taken out a second mortgage, if I'm remembering correctly. Great. Cool. So you were feeling stressed, pressured, going backwards, working your butt off, disconnected from your husband, thinking you didn't have time to even go to a 2-hour meeting. And now it's a year later. How would you describe your life today?
Well, there are some things that are crazy, right? Like aging parents and all of this other stuff, right? And so I'm not going to sit here and pretend and tell everybody that life is completely managed and fantastic, because obviously there are things that we just can't, we cannot predict, and we have no control over, right? However, the money piece, interestingly enough, we do have, and I don't like to use the word control, because I don't even feel like it's control, because control to me is like a contractual, like a contraction, like, oh, I'm going to control it, right? Like my fists are closed. So it's more of a freedom, if you will, and like a flow with our money. And it just, that's one thing, and thank God that I have that under control, because all the other things that are going on in my life right now, if the money was still causing me huge stress, I'm be over the edge.
Yeah, you would just blow up. There would just be no way. No, it'd be no way. No way.
Exactly. Because Teresa, I mean, we've been hanging out together now, for a while. And so what I was like on that first strategy call. It was not pretty.
Well, in your opinion, I thought
it wasn't pretty.
I thought it was incredibly powerful. And here's why. Because you showed up on that strategy call, and that itself was an act of courage. Because for so long you had been hiding it, and I'm going to deal with this, and nobody needs to know, and I don't want to worry anybody. And you had been, like you said, keeping it inside, having to deal with it yourself. And here you come to this call, and I felt blessed because you let all of that come out. And yeah, did it look like tears and crying and whatever? But that was you really starting to claim your power. That was you starting to claim. That was like the beginning of you feeling better. You know how, it's a bad analogy, but this is the one that's coming, is, you know how when you have the stomach flu, you don't want to throw up, and you don't want to throw up, and you don't want to throw up. But then you come to a point where you realize, oh man, but if I threw up, I would feel so much better. And so you finally throw up, and that's really the beginning of feeling better and healing. That's what that strategy call was for you.
Yeah.
That was, and so to see you stepping through your fear and be courageous and just telling me all that's going on and creating an opening for you to get the support and the shift that you wanted. Yeah. I think that's beyond pretty. That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Well, and I think too, another thing that shifted is because Jay was on that call with me.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And
yeah.
So what happened at that point is that he got it. He understood. Yep. He understood what this was doing to me. Yes. And he's like, Angie, I had no idea. Well, why would he?
Of course. Everything's fine. I've got it under control. I'm good. Don't worry. Don't worry you. Don't want you to worry.
No.
Exactly.
I'll worry for everybody.
And he was, and Jay came to that workshop with you, and we discovered he's a money avoider. And so you just played right into that. Yeah. But yeah, because of that, you two began to, like, you may still be the lead, but you're in sync and you're in partnership. And you began to feel supported by your husband. You started to feel supported by me. And that opens you to truly support yourself. So without getting into too many of the specifics, what are some of the big ahas or learnings or shifts that you experienced? Full disclosure, everybody, Angie, after that strategy call, enrolled in my 16-week Claim Your Money Power individual coaching program. So what were some of the ahas or shifts or like the profound learning that happened for you during that time that you think has made the difference for you? Like, thank God your money is stable because so much in your life is not stable. Can you share?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for me, a few of the biggest things were your support around, Angie. It's not all about push. It's not all about me having to do the work. I mean, we've got this whole mentality, I think, particularly in the United States, that, we've got to be the one to make it happen. Yeah. And I think that we can get the blinders on and we think that we're doing all the work. But when we open our awareness up, and when I looked back on literally everything in my life that has worked, it's not been me.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think if we stop, it's like, how did I meet my husband, the love of my life? That I didn't do anything. He showed up. Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, it's not like I was out looking for someone to marry. He showed up. And with my job, I mean, with my business, I never ever thought that I would have a business. I started learning, things started showing up, right? So I think a lot of that, Teresa, was like opening taking my blinders off and saying, Angie, if you look, it's not about you pushing. It's about you being open to what's around you, and being looking for the abundance that we have in our life already, right? And I think that it's so easy for us to run down a rabbit trail and think, and even if so I was freaking out about all the money I was paying on credit cards. Okay, well, what about all the money I had that I was able to pay a car payment, that I was able to live in a house, that I was able to, but you just get so focused on that one stupid thing that can drive you crazy. And that's where I was at. I was going insane. And so I think that's one of the big ahas for me is to, Angie, don't get in that rabbit hole.
Yes.
Right.
May I share something? I still remember this so clearly from one of your calls. May I share?
Yeah.
So one of the early practices that I introduced you to was gratitude. And for the very reason that gratitude can open you up and see beyond what you can get so stuck on, the scarcity, the lack, the credit card debt, the struggle. And I remember early on, I don't know if you remember this, but early on in that practice, I had asked you at the beginning of the call, what are you celebrating? And you said, oh, I got, some of my vendors paid me. And I said, well, did you remember to be grateful for that? Do you remember your response?
Oh, like, no. Why would I be grateful for that? I do a job for them. They have to pay me.
Exactly. And I said, well, why wouldn't you be good? Well, and I remember this. It's like, well, you can't tell me that people go around just going, ooh, I got paid. And yet you were open to, maybe there's something here. And you took it on. And my experience of you is the more you were able to open up using gratitude and other things to the abundance that was there all along, it changed your whole relationship to the credit card debt and the need to make money. And, there's other things that we learn to help with that too. So what's another one of your big ahas, or what you think was one of the biggest or more empowering shifts for you?
I'm going to go back to this whole this thing with Jay, right? Because when you're married, there is such a piece of being on the same page, and I think a lot of times we're not. Yes. And instead of getting angry at each other because we're not on the same page, is to understand why we're not on the same page and what can we do to at least occupy the same page, right? Yes. So understanding that he's a money avoider and I'm a money worrier, that is a hellacious combination, right? That just sets you up for disaster right away if you don't understand that, right? Because I'm thinking he doesn't even care.
Right.
Right? But he's like, I don't even know because I don't even pay attention. So we grew up markedly different with the money. And so this program had helped us to, why are we like we are? Well, he had a different experience in his family than what I did, right? And so melding those two together. And so I'm now not sitting here thinking, well, he doesn't care. It's just that he doesn't get as worried as me.
Yep.
And he now understands that, she gets really worried. So how can I support her not to worry? Oh, I'm going to listen to her. We're going to have our, money talks. And Angie's not going to be needing to be talked off the ledge.
Yep. And there's success and celebration right there. Jay, the money avoider, and you are having money talks. Yeah. I oftentimes say that whether when I work with people in this program, whether or not both partners participate, what it does is it begins to create a common language around money that they can share instead of two separate languages and they never get on the same page. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Anything else? I'm thinking of one other thing that I thought was really powerful for you. I'm curious if you think it was.
Well, would you like to tell me what you're thinking and then I'll tell you? Or do you want me to say something else?
It's up to you.
You tell me.
I'm thinking hub and wheel.
That's what I was going to bring up. Yeah. And so Teresa does this really cool thing, and that's what she did at this first time when I saw her speak. And she does this thing with this wheel, right? And anybody who knows me knows that I'm not real inventive. So the concept of a wheel, if I had to like be inventive, we wouldn't even have a wheel yet. Okay. So Teresa draws this wheel at her thing. And then in the program, I draw my wheel. And I'm like, oh my. Teresa's like, oh, Angie, that wheel, I don't know how you're even working with that. And so it was like, so everything was balancing on me in my wheel.
Yes.
Right. And it was all kinds of kitty wampus. And Teresa's like, do you really want to ride down the road on that wheel? I'm like, well, no, because that's the one I'm riding on and it's not comfortable.
Right, exactly. And one of the biggest things that I use that wheel around, and tell me if this is indeed true, is part of what allowed you to claim your power around money was you recognizing and beginning to make what you needed and what you wanted important, instead of everybody and everything else, which got your wheel all Katie Wampus and you going in all sorts of directions. I seem to think that one of the most difficult, challenging, and empowering practices, really the foundation, was you beginning to make your needs, your feelings, your desires important, to care for you, even as you still were caring for your money and other things. I just saw incredible shifts when you went there, even though sometimes that was really scary and it felt like a foreign language. Am I putting words in your mouth, or is that accurate?
No, you got it. I mean, you know me. You knew me from day one.
Yep.
And so yeah.
Only because I see myself in you a lot.
Right. And I think that again, when we talk about the large population, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say women, right? We are so focused on taking care of everybody else. And so we get the leftovers. And so you've talked to me about the leftovers a lot. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm a superstar at that yet, because I'm not. I still have a lot of growth to do around that and putting myself first. But I will tell you that I have made some shifts, and I've started to say no to some things, which is crazy for me, because I'm like, oh, bring it on, bring it on, bring it on, you know. But I do stop now and say, is that in my best interest, right? And I will tell you that it has not been comfortable for other people in my life either. Sometimes.
No, because they're used to
They're like,
absolutely.
What? What do you even, what?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, because, oh, I lost it. Where's I just going to go? Oh, that's what it was. It's like it doesn't even necessarily have to be about putting yourself first, but it is about putting yourself in the equation.
Right.
It's about putting yourself in the equation. Because one of the things that I know, I think it was true of you, I know it's true, but it's been true of me and of the people I'm meant to serve, is we have a tendency to somehow measure our worth, or think that our worth is reflected or measured or quantified by what we do or what we don't do, how much money we have. If we're in credit card debt, somehow we're less than. If we're able to do a zillion and one things and take care of everybody. And that's misplaced worth. That's a setup. You'll never, ever, ever feel whole, full, loved, accepted, completed. But when we can start to own our own inherent worth, and we do that by practicing behaviors that honor us, that choose us, give voice to ourselves, and taking care of our money, then the money stuff and other stuff starts to work better too. I think that's what you got. It's what I hope people in that program get. Anything more you want to say about that?
Yeah. No, I just think that I remember when we drew our wheel,
Yes.
wanted me to put something in the center,
Yes.
and I completely missed it.
Yep.
And I don't know what you want me to say about the wheel, but it's like,
Yeah.
no, I completely missed it. It's like it wasn't even there.
So in this wheel illustration, that if you happen to be on my free Claim Your Money Power webinar tomorrow or Wednesday that I'm offering, I seem to remember I'll share briefly the wheel then. But we talked about how a wheel needs to be attached to an axle. And in my work, the axle that the wheel, which is a metaphor for our lives, needs to be attached to is God, the divine, the source of all abundance, whatever name you use that. Because if not, it's just hard, and we're like just going to be careening out of control, trying to make it happen all by ourselves. And so when I asked Angie to draw her wheel, two very revealing things showed up. First of all, she had this big wheel and it had this really, really tiny hub. And that hub was reflecting her. So it really visually showed how she didn't make herself very important. And then it didn't have a hole for the axle to fit in at all. So it really subconsciously revealed Angie thought it was all on her. So, oh man, see, I told you 30 minutes would fly by, Angie.
I know.
Not a problem. So I see Susie, and who else is here? Lynn's here, and Hillary's here. I'm curious if any of you have had any, like, something that Angie shared in her story or whatever that has resonated with you, spoke to you, maybe raised a question real quick. We'd love to hear back from you. So feel free to type those in. And while you're doing that, I'm just going to put up on the screen the information about that free webinar that I just mentioned. There it is. I'm doing it tomorrow afternoon. I'm doing it Wednesday afternoon. It's a free 90-minute webinar, video webinar on Zoom. Just go to claimyourmoneypower.com to reserve your spot, and you'll get a little bit more meat on the bones of some of the things that Angie has been sharing has empowered her. So let me see, am I seeing any comments coming in from any of you? I'm seeing some love, I'm seeing some thumbs up. Now I got to figure out how to get back to the comments. I don't know how to do that. I'm still learning how to do this. Anyway, we're glad you could join us. Also, if for some reason, like Angie said, there's something about me or this conversation or Angie's story that you're like going, I want some of that. Again, the Claim Your Money webinar Claim Your Money Power webinar is a great way to start. But if you just want to go straight to that strategy call that was so empowering and the beginning of healing for Angie, then I'm just going to ask you to send an email to support@accessabundance.com. And please put in the subject, would like a free strategy call. And either I or my assistant, Ann, will get back to you and we'll get that scheduled for you. I completely screwed up because I don't know how to get back to the comments. Oh, there I go. Okay, I figured it out. I'm not, oh, there, Shirley's saying, Angie Stone only hangs around with incredible people. Susie says, I love hearing success stories. Yeah, especially on those days when maybe you're not feeling so successful or you're struggling. It sure is nice, isn't it, to hear that somebody else has been in your shoes and they've found a path that has created something else. So Angie, it has, this is great info and a sweet peek behind the curtain. Awesome. Hillary saying, so awesome to see you. Ditto, Hillary. Angie, what would you say to someone who, whether they're in debt or just living with fear a lot around money, living with pressure, maybe in that place of feeling like they got to make everybody else happy and take care of everybody else, and it's wreaking havoc for them financially, or maybe they've got a business where they're pushing to make more money. Given your experience this past year, what would be the words of wisdom or the final invitation you would want to give them?
Well, I would say that this is going to maybe sound weird for some people, but it's like, it's not about the money.
I'm so glad you said that.
I mean, seriously, and this may scare some people off because I'm telling you, this is serious stuff. This is serious work, right? I think that the money, just like with a lot of other things that we struggle with, if you struggle with, something else, it's really something deeper, that is manifesting itself in some other way. And I think that around the money, just having a better understanding, and I now have a system that allows me to understand more of what's going on. And I also know that I don't have to be afraid. Now, I won't sit here and say that I have a ton more money coming in than what I had a year ago. It's pretty well the same, right? But you know what? It's okay because I know it's okay and I'm not fretting about it anymore. There's abundance everywhere. And like you tell me, Teresa, they make money every day. And it's our job to attract it, right? Yep. And like be the magnet. And so those are all things that I'm still working on. And so again, I'm not here to say that I'm doing this perfectly. I'm a work in progress, like we are for so many things in our lives. And the cool thing is I'm in a different spot.
Yes.
And it's better.
Yes. The cool thing is that you're in a different spot. And yeah. I'm so glad you said it's not about the money. I really think that money is just this great mirror. That's the gift of it, that is pointing the path to our healing, and it's our path to the abundance that we're meant to have. And I wanted to just check, this is not a planned question, so I have no idea what your answer is. While your income isn't necessarily any more, like not like you're making more money, no. Do you have a sense of having more money than you did last year?
Yes.
Yes. Cool.
And can I share one thing that we're celebrating this month? Is that we've paid off in the last year. Are you ready?
Yeah.
$19,000 in debt.
Awesome.
And we didn't make any more money. And I'm not, and I have whatever money that I get to spend, right?
Yes.
And
it's not like you haven't had fun. It's not like you had to go through deprivation. That is freaking awesome, Angie. I hadn't heard. 19,000. Susie's going, wow, congrats. Yeah. Send Angie some love. Yeah. And it's just because you took back your voice and you claimed your power and you claimed your worth. And I know it was a big leap of faith, but it's so fun to see how it worked.
Yeah.
Woo-hoo-hoo.
Yeah.
Angie, thank you so much. Oh, I'm so excited. Now I got to go jump around to just get rid of all this energy. 19,000. That is freaking cool. Awesome.
And again, it's not because we were making a lot more money. It's because I understood. And again, we're not in deprivation. We never had recreation money put aside. We never had whatever money put aside. And it's not a lot, but I'm here to tell you that it makes you feel super good when you're like, I have some money that I can spend on whatever I want.
Yeah, it's what I call guilt-free fun.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. That's a great note to end. Guilt-free fun. Awesome. Thank you, Teresa. Love you bunches. Thanks to all of you who have been here. Let's give Angie another whoop, whoop, whoop for $19,000. How cool is that? Way to go. Everybody, blessings on your day. Please share this interview with anybody you think it might bless. Have a great one.